My wife always says that's a whole lot to say about such a little guy. But you know, when you meet people like Miguel del Valle, you meet others that I see in this audience, and they're doers. They're result-oriented individuals that, because we live in a crisis, socioeconomic realities in many of our communities. I don't care if you're in Joliet, if you're in the heart of Humboldt Park, you're in South Chicago, by Bowman High. Doesn't matter if you're on South Shore, on 79th and Euclid. I can see every one of those corners in my eyes. I've been to every one of those communities. Doesn't matter if you're way down south, if you find a whole lot of farmers. It's not about the color of your skin. King was right. It's about the content of the character. Poor people with needs no different than ours, where they have no methadone clinic to treat the stressed out workers who are unemployed, with dysfunctional children at home who have mental and physical, many needs around the family issues of morals, which starts just to understand when you wake up at home. So when we talk about, and when I was invited today, actually quite a while ago, I had been simultaneously assigned to a new commission that has been created on racial and ethnic disparities. And Senator Mattie Hunter is leading that hearing in just a little while at the State Building. I'll join her hopefully about 11-ish, as I'll be a member of that. In addition, members of closing the socioeconomic gap to public health and health care, especially now in the mental health community, as hope I quote my bill right, but House Bill 1530, I believe it was, and I keep getting 1520 in my mind, but 1530, House Bill was the Mental Health Parity Act that you should research. The governor has signed it. It was led by Lou Lang in the House. I led it in the Senate, and we were able to meet with every insurer in the state of Illinois, help them understand, as when we are now in a time in Illinois that this room is a real example of what Illinois looks like, what Illinois workers do, and what Illinois people are concerned with. They also knew that back in 2002, this state representative at the time, William Delgado, along with now President Barack Obama, ran together through the SIU component of Paul Simon School of Public Policy, created the legislation for universal health care, House Bill 2268, which will stay in my mind forever, because actually I'm the first one to get to touch that and run that legislation and pass it 118 to nothing in the House of Representatives. Barack, of course, was the chairman in the Senate at the time and ran it all the way to the U.S. Senate, which is what we wanted to do, so he could tell the rest of the country, and that, of course, catapulted him even further into the presidency, and we're very excited. So I'm the other side of the postcard of the famous presidency of Barack Obama. I'm the cousin you didn't meet. Because we were looking for this public policy through the Campaign for Better Healthcare. I don't know if Laura Leon is here, and Jim Dustick's group. But of course, we have a mission, and that is to create great public policy here in Illinois, that this is my home. I'm not running policy to run for higher office. I run policy because it affects me and my community. Every day I was born as a U.S. Puerto Rican in North New Jersey, but parents who had mental health needs that were incited in some cases through alcoholism, lack of jobs, lack of dignity on the streets, the discrimination, all of the social ills that are negative stigmas that lead people to act away or not act away. And so stigmas in mental health, stigma itself can be applicable to so many fields. When we talk to many communities, if it's the lesbian, gay community, stigmas, when we talk about just Latinos and the stigmas, and we talk about self-esteem, are we too short, are we too tall, is my hair straight, is my hair curly? Oh, I mean, we give ourselves all kind of labels. We label ourselves in Spanish, negrito, negrita. We give ourselves all kind of labels, and some are very sweet, and some can be, are endearing, and others are really, sound supposed to be sweet, but aren't nice when you say gordita, and it's supposed to be sweet. Which for those who don't know, it means chubby or something. And back in the day, it could be a nickname. But I know because I was born on Halloween, and having a stigma just on a Halloween baby has not been fun for 55 years, by the way. I'll be 55 on Halloween. But, and man, I keep looking at me getting body. I'm 17. Miguel's supposed to be 55. Now, as far as his dad, I'm not supposed to grow up. But I have seen the plight. You have educated me. I have observed as a child welfare specialist at DCFS in the state of Illinois. I got to observe it as a child welfare specialist in the state of Florida and Miami, working with over 118 populations in child welfare and abuse and neglect. I got to see it from a standpoint of the felony parole and probation officer, community side, who I could survive in these systems, because they're not there to answer to the needs of the communities, address their mental health needs that might have led to their criminal activity. They didn't address the mental health needs that leads mom or pop to go off on a child, or a child who sees certain behaviors or is exposed to certain things or doesn't have certain tools, that child acts out in such a way that we call it, we label it, we create the stigmas. So when I was asked to be here today, I come here with a heavy heart, but with a lot of enthusiasm to bring change, to continue for you to help me dissect and take apart every part of the statutes as it relates to public health and mental health, and as it relates to public safety. Because everything that we talk about goes back to a community of public safety, education, public health, human services, that is the wraparound to every person who has a mental health issue. So when it applies to me, someone who takes a mental health drug, who has had to take it most of my life, and it's a heavy heart, because we talk about stigmas. When we talk about mental health does not discriminate, and I'm here to, first of all, to thank you for letting me be part of your day. I've been making very sparse appearances this last year. I thank the leadership. I thank the smiles and enthusiasm and think that I could add something of knowledge, if you will. I don't profess a lot of intelligence, but I bring you knowledge to be able to see how we move forward and making sure that your agenda is heard, that your agenda is on the stage, front and center with me, as the chairman of public health, as many of you have witnessed, to be in Springfield and be part of the creation of a law, to be my witnesses and to be there to bring the people of Illinois to the capital of Illinois, to your house, and to walk with me and walk with President Cullerton and walk with Senator Matty Hunter, walking with the progressive legislators that say, basta ya, we need to make Illinois accountable in mental health, and these stigmas, this paradigm shift that must be created now, these stigmas must be eliminated, just as we eliminated the abolishment of the capital death penalty. That starts there. We must be able to be adamant in terms of making sure that we are clear on the language and the direction we want to take, and be clear that it is eclectic in mental health, that there's many forms and many populations within us that we must address. And right now, over 30,000 Americans are dying because of mental health confusions on interactions of prescription drugs. And my son was one of them. And when my son Ruben died on June 12th in his sleep from taking his regular diazepam, and because of other drugs that he had to take, which were just remnants, and as was quoted by the medical examiner, there's no reason why this man should have been dead. But we wrote 100 of these this year, Senator, because we're not sure what's really killing them, other than the high levels of the painkillers that are in Vicodin and in Percocet and the interactions. So we're holding public hearings throughout the state of Illinois so that we can bring these pharmaceutical pimps to the table, so that we can say to them once and for all, you want us to take people harm for our depression, or listen to the side effects that they do. What do they do to you? How did they change the essence of Ruben Delgado? How did they change the essence of William Delgado on Sabalsa? When it has more side effects that would put me in jeopardy and take away what you all know that brought Willie Delgado to the table and tried to make him some kind of zombie. I can't take that medication. We say, let's find those doctors that want to take more natural medications. We know that pharmaceuticals are necessary for pain. However, natural medicines are proven, and we know that they work, and together with therapies of other types of pharmaceuticals, things can happen. But because of these actions, stigmas, and really just an all-out attack on these populations, of trying to control what you need has been permeating through our university studies by pharmaceuticals hiring our professors. So we are going to have we have 3 public hearings left. One was held at SIU to determine the interactions of prescription drugs on the mental health population, those who obviously need it for the most simple anxiety, some simple forms of bipolarity, simple forms of stress just based on other factors that are collateral to you, a loss of the family, and that is habit forming on a lorazepam, and then all of a sudden you can't return to work. That does not make you a drug addict. These are not overdoses. These are not people who are manipulating drugs. These are stigmas. So we're going to change some laws, and one law will be, if you only die of one pill, is that an overdose? No. So that will now be a unfortunate accidental death on prescription interaction. That will be a new law. We will make a new law that no professors can teach at our universities if they have any contract with pharmaceuticals. It's a conflict of interest. That's going to be a new law. We're going to see that in January. No traigo paquete. Traigo jabón para que se lave. To understand that Spanish lingo. Because we got to bring some soap so they can bathe. And so we have another law that's going to be coming forward too. We may have to create a 2120 law, a 5150 law, and I'm going to ask you about that in a second. A 5150 law on an adult. You see me to the point that I need some help, and I'm not trying to find that help, and I'm just not bottomed out to get that help. You can go ahead and petition in court and help her, and she'll go for 1 week. 1 week, you can intern her. Now, the state of California has this. It's called the 5150 law. But if you're 27 years old and you say, but look, I'm fine. Give me time. Give me space. You give them space, and tomorrow they don't wake up. So this is called 5150 law. We're exploring it. It will be a little controversial because there are some abuses in there we got to be careful with. But that's another one we can protect our loved ones. But those are things that we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking about stigma and wellness here because I'm going to be informative and I want to be persuasive a little bit and let you know that we do know what we're doing downstate because of many of you in this audience. But we have to create new laws that are going to address the mental health community, and we started with the largest piece, which was the Mental Health Parity Act, which I think is fantastic. This is the legislation we did on Universal, which will be announced bigger in 2014. Of course, we're the first in the nation to implement it, and it is considered landmark legislation. Please research it because as the practitioners and providers, you will start to appreciate this and having to interpret it to many people as it pertains to workplaces. So it's very important. And as you learn about it, keep educating me because we tend to move on and build castles and then turn out to see did it work. And you are our barometer. If it doesn't work, let's get rid of it. If it doesn't work, let's modify it. Let's amend it. I hope you realize you have a vehicle here. His name is Senator William Delgado. He's the chair of public health, and I'm going to run whatever you need done. But when we talk about Latino behavioral health, and here at this symposium, he said, Willie, talk about stigma and wellness. And so I usually always just speak from my heart in a very eclectic manner. But when we want to be specific about mental health, and we know it doesn't discriminate, we know how it attacks every race, ethnic, and socioeconomic background, and we as a community of color and those who are progressive in the white community, Asian communities, African American communities, let's stop labeling. This is about socioeconomics. We must all stand as one. It's not that side of the viaduct or this side of the viaduct. It is about people. It is about families. It's not about Republicans and Democrats. It's about health. And we have to make sure that it is a priority in government because there's $54 billion under that dome. Somebody's getting it, and we're not getting our fair share. They're giving it to corrections and finding cuts within that community and dumping at people into the streets of Humboldt Park and Little Village and others. We won't stand for that, but we know that many of these folks are our friends. They're our neighbors. They're people we've serviced in the past. They're people we service today. And according to the National Mental Health Information Center, mental health stigma is not just the use of the wrong word or action. It's about disrespect. And that's why I come with my eyebrows down a little bit, because we got to get some respect and dignity. It is the use of negative labels to identify a person living with mental illness. Stigma is a barrier and discourages individuals and their families from getting the help they need due to the fear of being discriminated against. An estimated 50 million Americans experience a mental disorder in any given year, and only 1/4 of them actually receive mental health and other services. I saw this as a DCFS worker and as someone who went into prisons and did post-sentence investigations and pre-sentence investigations, and it saddened me the state of our men and women who are incarcerated, the poor of the poor, the most less educated of the educated, but yet their brains are phenomenal in terms of their ability to deduct and induct reasoning, their ability to analyze what was right and what was wrong, but no one ever gave them the benefit of the doubt. It was like throwing a puppy in the backyard and raising them that way. If you throw folks out, that's how they're going to become. But when you give them a chance to channel that energy and to really show what they can do, then many of them have become very, very prominent people in their communities. So the stigmas, it may be the most pervasive and harmful obstacle for anyone diagnosed with a mental illness. Stigma and the behaviors that stem from it cause discrimination and creates barriers to wellness and recovery of people diagnosed with a mental illness. Stigma is here, and it's real, and it often stands in the middle of the room unchallenged or even unobserved. Sort of like a bully. When I first heard bullying coming out, I thought, in my hood, who was going to go out bullying? I couldn't relate to it at first, because it was so part of my culture already, and now I understand 10 years later how important to address the issue of bullying. Because sometimes you feel you're in that same bubble. So when you talk about it's in the room challenge, stigmas in our rooms all the time, and that's what holds minorities back. It holds women back, because we're sometimes our worst enemy by creating the stigmas or accepting the label. With education, like minorities, by the way, can we eliminate that M word already? Let's say we're majorities, because when we look at all of us as a land of color, we're a majority in this country, and the census says it like it is. With educational tools and awareness, we can work to reduce the stigma and surround mental health issues and illness for benefits of our families and friends. With educational tools and awareness. So as we're writing laws, as you're helping me introduce pieces of legislation, what are you doing on a policy level to create policy that's going to complement the laws that we pass? How does it work in the hood? How do we have it CBO'd? How do we have it from our agencies direct to the community? Be it in any language, be it in sign language, be it in any particular language. This is a very eclectic state, and we need to know how exactly, what tools am I talking about? We talk about educational. That's meaning that CPS needs to be more sensitive to the realities that they're ignoring and not having the proper ratio of psychiatrists to children. Every time I did IEPs with foster kids, and not having bilingual, bicultural workers who can talk to a child about sex abuse, that is something very, very sensitive, especially within Asian and Latino cultures. So we have to be very, very diligent in making sure that we permeate every level of have tools and have a director that has people that look like you and me in every form of their work. Because if you're not at the table, then damn it, you're on the menu. So we have to have a role. And the role can't be imposed that it's going to be, well, you're the population we're servicing. I don't need a handout. I need a corny saying. I need a hand up. Let me be at the table. Let us make the decisions with you. We need to know. And what are your decisions before you impose them upon us? And how many community commissions do you create within your divisions in the state of Illinois to participate with the people to help make the decision? Because we tend to get away. I'm kind of corny. It is a government for the people, by the people. So when the emotional impact of stigma, devastation penetrates all aspects of life, from employment and healthcare to housing and relationships with families and friends, it can affect the self-esteem of individuals with mental illnesses. Low self-esteem can exacerbate symptoms and lead to isolation. We see that in children all the time. And we see that when I go talk to the individual parents, and I find it in one of them. And usually when I find that in one of them, and I see that behavior in the children, and I can see it in their eyes, and it takes more than 5 to 7 years to be able to at least get that child to where they can function within themselves academically and be able to share again without the animosities that come with that. And then to remember that when they go to bed at night, they're in the dark, and they get very afraid. And that's something that I could tell you so many stories about, as I did many, many nights. Being labeled as a mentally ill also defines self-worth. Demeaning comments made about a person with a mental illness can damage self-worth. Fears of labels and feeling unworthy of health care can definitely cause individuals to cease to avoid treatment. It can aggravate symptoms and lead to loss of employment, housing, and relationships. And my son was a quality teacher. He taught advanced placement Spanish at Morton East High School. He was being accepted to the University of Spain at the end of June, right before he passed. He was a double major, Spanish and elementary, He was the top of his class. He was a genius. Yet he could, once he was alone, he could organize his entire room. But then after that, now what? Well, what? He couldn't stop. And then he just felt that then he didn't want to be around people, so he felt that he did all the talking, and he didn't want to impose on you, like I do sometimes. I want to move away. I feel I don't fit in the group anymore. And so you tend to do that. Guess what? You're a leader. Stand out. Stand out. Don't conform. Stand up and stand out. That's what we need, more people. What we have been taught by others in this society is that you were trained to do this, don't do that. Oh, no, that's not fair. Oh, acting like that's so emotional. Oh, my God, there must be something wrong. Well, heck yeah, if you're giving them coffee in the morning with sugar, if you're giving them galletitas de noche with azúcar at night, for the love of God, that's what they're, in the meantime, some of us just say, let's pay. But at the end of the day, what happened after that? How did they treat us? What occurred? Very little therapies, very little attention. Now we're dealing with the effects. And many of you are newer generations, and many of you have seen it in us, or your parents, your uncles. And now, how do we do this better? It has to be done through legislation. It has to be done through focus groups. It has to be done through your associations, not competing for all the same mental health dollars, but to find the uniquenesses of what we want to address. Autism and Asperger, for example. When we talk about, oh my goodness, a variety as it comes to children, adults, and seniors. And let's not stop there. How about their parents who need respite? And how about you? How about you having the mental health day that you need to be able to reckon with this again on low salaries, and salaries that are insulting to me, and they continue to make cuts, but continue to make sure that animal cages can get cleaned, but we can't service our homeless that are left out at midnight to 8 a.m. in the morning. Something is wrong. What's wrong is how government is structuring their budgets. Something is wrong. Something is wrong is that maybe leadership needs to be addressed. Something is wrong. Voters need to come out in droves, because you are the only one. We as a collective, like I do too, I vote viciously. We have to come out and do that. And those who work are in statutes. They bring money to the districts, and they make paradigm shifts. As I have a focused concentration, and I mean to insult no one here. I was born in North New Jersey, but I am on a mission, having worked in the state of Florida and San Antonio and Illinois, that the growth of the Latino population is happening so fast that all components of government and civic governments and municipal governments have been derelict and slow to making the transition. They ignored it during the black community's ascension during the 60s, and we see the remnants of that failure on every corner as we come through our communities. We see their castles that they have and the potential that they've grown. We've seen their leaderships and have shared with them and everything, because we share our social economics, because I'm a West Side legislator. And with Danny Davis and with others that I've worked with have done magnificent work around public health. We have to bridge ourselves at that level and make sure that our congressional level is addressing the mental health stigmas for elimination. Just as we can eliminate the death penalty and abolish it in this state, we have to use the same concepts and the same pens that the governor brings out and says, here's the governor's pen that signed the death penalty abolition. I was right there, because once upon a time, someone wanted to kill Rolando Cruz and Alex Hernandez for the Carrico case, and I had to work that with the Attorney General Roland Burris, and many of us brought justice to make sure that the Carrico's case was handled and that these two men were freed. Well, not only that, then we signed the death penalty abolition just recently, and I was asked to be there, although the credit goes to Senator Kwame Raoul and to Karen Yarbrough, and yet here's the pen that signed a lot of that, and I say, I bring it out to you symbolically, because this is the pen you want to hand to the governor again, to sign new laws that are going to come out of you, that are going to come from your observations, ways that we can save money, that they are wasting money, and